She argued about politics in a cafe, not knowing the listener was a millionaire senator who would fall for her. The headline flashed across Bella Gomez's social media feed, and she nearly choked on her latte. For a split second, she thought someone had written an article about her passionate debate at Maple Street Café yesterday. Her heart hammered against her ribcage until she realized it was just one of those ridiculous clickbait stories her friend Morgan kept sharing. If only her life were that cinematically serendipitous. Little did she know, fate had already set those exact wheels in motion, and the handsome man who had listened so intently to her impassioned speech about agricultural subsidies was, in fact, Senator Andrew Green, Washington, D.C.'s most eligible bachelor, agricultural magnate, and her political nemesis. "Mom, we are going to be late for Lara's vet appointment," called out Victoria, Bella's 13-year-old daughter, as she struggled to get their squirming Pekingese into her carrier. The small dog wriggled desperately, her flat face more disgruntled than usual. "5 minutes, sweetie," Bella replied, quickly scanning her emails. As a senior policy advisor at the Department of Agriculture, her morning started early and ended late. But being a single mother had taught her the art of multitasking to near superhuman levels. Their apartment in Georgetown was bathed in morning sunlight, highlighting the collection of chess trophies that lined the bookshelf. Beside them sat Victoria's prized aquarium, a vibrant underwater world that occupied the teenager when she was not walking Lara or studying. "Did you see that Senator Green's fundraiser is happening tonight?" Victoria asked, scrolling through her phone. "The one you said was a blatant display of political theater designed to distract from his harmful policies." Bella rolled her eyes. "I did not say that, at least." "You did, Mum. At dinner with Aunt Cynthia last week, right before you called him a devastatingly handsome menace to progressive politics." "I definitely did not mention his appearance," Bella lied, feeling heat rise to her cheeks. She had indeed noticed the senator's striking good looks during his television appearances, his salt and pepper hair, piercing blue eyes, and the way his tailored suits fit his athletic frame. But that only made her dislike him more. How dare someone with such regressive policies on sustainable agriculture look that good? "Whatever you say," Victoria smirked, having inherited her mother's sharp wit. "We both know you secretly follow his Instagram." "I follow his policies, not his Instagram," Bella corrected, grabbing her bag. "It is called knowing your opponent." As they headed to the car, Bella's phone rang. It was Congressman Martinez, her party's rising star. "Bella, I need you at the town hall meeting tonight. Senator Green is bringing his corporate friends, and we need someone who can eloquently challenge his position on the agricultural reform bill." "Tonight?" Bella glanced at Victoria, who was now successfully wrestling Lara into the back seat. "I was planning a chess tournament with Vic." "We can reschedule, Mom," Victoria said, clearly eavesdropping. "Besides, you are the best person to take down Senator Dreamy." "Senator Green," Bella corrected automatically, though the nickname was not entirely inaccurate. "Fine, I will be there." What Bella did not know was that across town, in a palatial home overlooking the Potomac, Senator Andrew Green was having a similar conversation about her. "Dad, you realize Bella Gomez will be at the town hall, right?" Michael Green, Andrew's oldest son and CEO of Green Agricultural Holdings, looked up from his laptop. At 32, he had inherited his father's business acumen and commanding presence. Andrew straightened his tie in the mirror. "Is that supposed to concern me? She eviscerated your position on sustainable farming subsidies at the last hearing. The video went viral." "I remember," Andrew said, unsuccessfully hiding a smile. What he did not tell his son was how impressed he had been by her passionate articulation, her unwavering commitment to her principles, and the way her eyes had flashed with intelligence and fire. They were political opposites, but there was something about her that had stayed with him. She is brilliant, determined, and probably the most formidable opponent you have right now, added Nathan, his younger son, without looking up from the industrial computer system he was repairing on the dining table. At 28, Nathan ran a successful IT company specializing in agricultural technology, though he preferred the hands-on work to management. That is exactly what makes political discourse exciting, Andrew replied. Worthy opponents. Mrs. Winters, his no-nonsense housekeeper of 15 years, appeared with his briefcase. Senator, your pilot called. The weather is clear for flying to Virginia tomorrow after the session. She fixed his slightly crooked collar with practiced efficiency. And do try not to antagonize Ms. Gomez tonight. Last time you came home in a state. Andrew chuckled. I was not in a state. You paced the study for 2 hours, muttering about subsidy allocations and those remarkable brown eyes, Mrs. Winters said dryly. I have raised 3 boys of my own. I know a state when I see one. Michael and Nathan exchanged knowing glances as their father cleared his throat uncomfortably. The town hall is about policy, not personalities, Andrew insisted, though his sons looked unconvinced. Now, if you will excuse me, I have a fundraiser to prepare. What none of them realized was that the town hall would be postponed due to a plumbing emergency at the venue. Instead, both Bella and Andrew would independently decide to visit Maple Street Café, she to drown her disappointment in caffeine, he to rehearse his points in peace. And there, amidst the aroma of freshly ground coffee beans and without the pressure of political performance, they would truly see each other for the first time. Sometimes the most important debates happen when nobody is watching, and sometimes the person sitting at the next table listening to your passionate discourse on agricultural policy is exactly the person fate has decided you need to meet, even if he is your political adversary. The universe works in mysterious ways, or in this case, through a cafe's intimate ambiance and the unexpected magnetism of opposing perspectives. Because while Bella prepared her arguments against Senator Green's policies, she had no idea that, within 24 hours, those same arguments would lead her directly into his arms. The pleasant aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled Maple Street Café as Bella found a quiet corner table. The town hall cancellation had left her with unexpected free time, and rather than return to an empty apartment, Victoria was at her chess club. She decided to use the evening to refine her talking points against Senator Green's agricultural policies. Large Americano, extra shot, she told the barista, pulling out her laptop. Outside, rain began to fall over Washington, D.C., transforming the streets into glistening pathways beneath the streetlights. The cafe's large windows fogged slightly, creating a cozy barrier between Bella and the outside world. She opened her document titled Green's Agricultural Fallacies and smiled at her own pun. 3 tables away, Andrew Green sat with his back to her, nursing a black coffee and reviewing notes for a speech. He had removed his tie and, without his usual entourage, blended in surprisingly well with the cafe's diverse crowd. Rain had not been in the forecast, and having walked from his last meeting, he was slightly damp and considerably less senatorial in appearance. The cafe had filled quickly as people sought shelter from the sudden downpour, and a group of college students at a nearby table were engaged in a heated political debate about agricultural reform, the very topic that divided Bella and Andrew professionally. But the Green Agricultural Bill prioritizes large corporate farms over small family operations, argued one student passionately. That is not entirely accurate, another countered. It creates tiered support systems. Bella could not help herself. Setting aside her laptop, she turned toward their table. Actually, if you examine Section 214 of the EI bill, you will find the senator's definition of small farm. conveniently excludes operations under 50 acres, which represents nearly 40% of sustainable farming initiatives in the country. Did the students turn to her, surprised but intrigued? One recognized her. "Wait, are not you Bella Gomez, the policy advisor who challenged Senator Green at the committee hearing last month?" Bella nodded, slightly embarrassed at being recognized. That is me. Sorry for interrupting, but agricultural policy is kind of my thing." "No, please, join us!" They eagerly made room at their table. Andrew, whose back was still to the group, froze. He recognized that voice, the clear, confident tone that had challenged him across many a conference room table. Without turning, he listened, intrigued by hearing her speak outside the formal constraints of political proceedings. "The problem with Senator Green's approach," Bella explained, warming to her subject, "is not that he does not understand agriculture. He clearly does, given his background. It is that his vision prioritizes efficiency and profit over sustainability and community support. When he talks about modernizing farming, he is really talking about consolidation." Andrew found himself smiling into his coffee. She understood his position better than most of his supporters. He was tempted to turn around and join the conversation, but hesitated, realizing this was a rare opportunity to hear her unfiltered thoughts. "But is not his family business built on sustainable practices?" one student asked. "The green organic label is on half the produce at my grocery store." "That is marketing brilliance," Bella replied. The Green Agricultural Holdings did adopt some sustainable practices, but only after they became profitable. Their priority has always been the bottom line. And while I can respect a good business strategy, I cannot support policies that use it. It is a template for our nation's food security. Andrew winced. That assessment stung, particularly because there was truth in it. His company had indeed embraced sustainability after profit margins proved it viable, but his political positions were more nuanced than she gave him credit for. "The frustrating thing," Bella continued, "is that beneath all the political posturing, I think there is potential for common ground. If Senator Green would just listen to smaller farmers as attentively as he listens to corporate boards." "Perhaps he is listening more than you realize," Andrew said, finally turning. Around, the café seemed to freeze. Bella's eyes widened in recognition, and the students looked between them with expressions ranging from shock to delight at the unexpected political drama unfolding in their midst. "Senator Green," Bella said, recovering quickly, "I did not realize you frequented establishments where ordinary citizens discuss policy." "Ms. Gomez," he replied with a slight smile, "I did not realize you discussed me so thoroughly during your coffee breaks." The tension between them was palpable, charged with professional rivalry, but also something more complex. In the artificial lighting of government buildings, they had been opponents. Here, in the warm glow of the café, they were simply a man and a woman with passionate convictions. "Would you care to join us, Senator?" one of the students asked. "We are getting quite an education." Andrew glanced at Bella, seeking permission. After a moment of hesitation, she nodded slightly. "Thank you," he said, pulling up a chair. "Though I should warn you, Ms. Gomez and I have a history of turning civil discussions into passionate debates. That is because you consistently prioritize profit over people," Bella said, though without her usual confrontational edge. "And you consistently assume the worst about my intentions," he countered, his blue eyes meeting her brown ones with unexpected warmth. "But perhaps we could try something different tonight?" One of the students smiled slyly. "Like actually listening to each other?" Bella and Andrew both laughed, breaking some of the tension. "A novel concept in Washington," Andrew admitted. For the next hour, they engaged in the most honest conversation they had ever had, without cameras, without political advisors, without the need to score points. The students occasionally chimed in, but mostly watched in fascination as two political opponents found moments of agreement and articulated their differences with newfound respect. "Your passion for small farming communities is admirable," Andrew said as the conversation wound down. "My father started as a small farmer, before the business expanded." "I did not know that," Bella admitted. "My dissertation actually focused on family farm transitions to sustainable methods." "I would like to read it sometime," he said, surprising them both with his sincerity. The cafe was closing and the rain had stopped. As they stepped outside, the fresh, rain-washed air seemed to symbolize the clearing of preconceptions between them. "My car is just around the corner," Andrew said. "Can I offer you a ride home?" Bella hesitated. That might cause quite the political stir, seen leaving together. "True," he chuckled. "Washington loves its scandals." They stood awkwardly for a moment, neither wanting to end the evening. "There is a committee meeting next Tuesday," Andrew finally said. "Agricultural subsidies will be discussed. I imagine you will be there." "Front row," Bella confirmed. "And they're prepared to challenge every point you make." "I would expect nothing less," he smiled, "though perhaps we could continue tonight's conversation afterward. There is a cafe near the Capitol." Bella studied his face, searching for political calculation, but finding only genuine interest. "I would like that," she said finally. As they parted ways, neither acknowledged the unexpected shift in their relationship. They were still opponents, still fundamentally at odds on policy, but something had changed in that cafe, a recognition that beyond the political personas they projected, there were two people who might have more in common than either had been willing to admit. What Bella did not know was that Andrew would spend his ride home thinking not about political strategy, but about the way her eyes lit up when she spoke about farming communities, and how much he wanted to see that passion directed at something other than opposing his policies. What Andrew did not know was that Bella would call her best friend the moment she got home, confessing in a panicked whisper, "I think I just had coffee with Senator Green, and worse, I think I enjoyed it." The political stage was set for their public confrontation on Tuesday. The personal stage was set for something entirely different. The Senate Agriculture Committee hearing room buzzed with anticipation. Journalists checked their recording equipment. Aides whispered last-minute advice to their bosses, and in the front row, Bella Gomez reviewed her notes, determined not to let Senator Green's unexpected charm affect her professional judgment. 4 days had passed since their cafe encounter, days during which Bella had alternated between replaying their conversation and chiding herself for finding him so intriguing. "He is still pushing policies that harm small farmers," she reminded herself sternly as she straightened her blazer. At the witness table, representatives from various agricultural sectors prepared their testimonies. The hearing would address proposed changes to agricultural subsidies, changes that Bella believed would disproportionately benefit large operations like green agricultural holdings. The committee members filed in, Andrew among them. When their eyes met briefly, Bella felt an unwelcome flutter in her stomach. He nodded slightly professionally, giving no indication of their cafe conversation. She was not sure whether to be relieved or disappointed. "The committee will come to order," announced the chairwoman. "Today, we address the Agricultural Subsidies Reform Act. Senator Green, as the bill's primary sponsor, you may begin." Andrew approached the podium with the confident ease of someone accustomed to public speaking. "Nay, thank you, Madam Chair. The bill before us today represents a balanced approach to modernizing our agricultural subsidy system." As he outlined the bill's provisions, Bella listened intently, surprised to note subtle changes from his previous positions. Had he incorporated some of the concerns she had raised during their cafe discussion? The revisions included expanded support for farms under 50 acres, the very issue she had highlighted. When the time came for expert testimony, Bella approached the microphone with her usual confidence, though inside she felt uncharacteristically nervous. Honourable committee members, while Senator Green's revisions show progress, they still fail to address fundamental inequities in how we support American farmers. She presented her points systematically, maintaining eye contact with various committee members, but found herself repeatedly drawn to Andrew, who watched her with undivided attention. Unlike previous hearings where he had appeared dismissive, today he seemed genuinely engaged, occasionally noting her points. After the formal proceedings, as the room cleared, Andrew approached her. "Compelling testimony, Ms. Gomez. You have given the committee much to consider." "Thank you, Senator," she replied, aware of curious glances from departing staffers. "I noticed some revisions to your original proposal." A slight smile played at his lips. Good coffee can lead to good policy adjustments. "Are we still on for our continued discussion?" she asked, keeping her voice professional despite the personal nature of the question. "Absolutely. 7 o'clock at Capitol Grounds Café?" "I will be there," she confirmed, gathering her papers. "To continue challenging your positions, of course." "I would expect nothing less," he replied, his eyes conveying more than his words. As they parted ways, neither noticed Michael Green observing their interaction from the back of the room, his expression thoughtful. At precisely 7, Bella arrived at Capitol Grounds, having changed from her formal hearing attire to a more casual blue dress. She found Andrew already seated in a quiet corner, similarly dressed down in slacks and a light sweater that emphasized his athletic build. "No security detail?" she asked, sliding into the chair across from him. "Left them at the office," he replied. "Tonight I am just Andrew, not Senator Green." For the next 2 hours they continued their cafe debate in earnest, but with each point of contention they also discovered shared values beneath their different approaches. Andrew spoke of his family's farming origins with genuine passion, and Bella shared stories of the rural communities she had worked with during her research. "You know," Andrew said, leaning back in his chair, "my eldest son accused me of revising the bill because of you." Bella nearly choked on her tea. "And did you?" "I revised it because your arguments had merit," he admitted, "but I might not have looked as closely without our conversation. Political opponents influencing each other. Scandalous," she teased. "Speaking of scandal," he said, his tone shifting to something more serious, "have dinner with me tomorrow night." The invitation hung between them, transforming their tentative professional détente into something explicitly personal. "And that would be unwise," Bella said carefully. "I am the policy director for your opposition party. You are a senator championing bills I regularly criticize." "All true," he acknowledged. "And yet here we are, having coffee for the second time in a week, discussing far more than agricultural policy." Before she could respond, her phone lit up with Victoria's face. "Sorry, it is my daughter. I should take this." Stepping outside, she answered worriedly, "Everything okay, sweetie?" "And Mom, Lara got into my aquarium somehow. The fish are fine, but she's soaking wet and there is water everywhere." Victoria's panicked voice came through. "Stay calm. I will be home in 20 minutes, Bella assured her, returning to the table. "I am sorry, family emergency. My daughter's dog decided to go swimming in the fish tank." Andrew laughed. "I remember those days. My sons were constantly in crisis when they were younger." Standing, he added, "Let me drive you home. It will be faster than waiting for a rideshare." Practical concerns overrode her hesitation. "Thank you, that would help." In his car, a surprisingly modest sedan for a millionaire senator, they drove through the Washington evening, the conversation shifting to their children. "Victoria is 13, brilliant at chess, and has enough confidence for both of us," Bella said proudly. Her father moved to California 3 years ago. We co-parent, but the daily responsibilities are mostly mine. My boys are adults now, Andrew replied. Michael runs the company and Nathan has his own IT business. Their mother passed away when they were teenagers. Mrs. Winters, our housekeeper, became a second mother to them. The personal disclosure created a new intimacy between them. By the time they reached Bella's Georgetown apartment building, the awkwardness had been replaced by comfortable conversation. "This is me," she said, as he pulled up. "About dinner tomorrow," he began. "I still think it is complicated," Bella replied. "But maybe complications are not always bad. Text me the details." His smile was answer enough. Upstairs, Bella found Victoria mopping up the last of the water while a thoroughly shampooed Lara sulked in her carrier. Crisis averted. Victoria announced, "Though I think Lara's dignity is permanently damaged." Noticing her mother's expression, she added suspiciously, "You look happy. Did something happen at the hearing?" "The hearing was fine," Bella said, hanging up her coat. "Senator Green made some positive revisions to the bill." "And that is why you are smiling like that? Because of bill revisions?" Victoria raised a skeptical eyebrow in a perfect imitation of her mother. "Go to bed, smarty pants," Bella laughed, avoiding the question. Later, as she prepared for bed, her phone chimed with a text. "Magnolia Restaurant, 7 p.m. Dress code, whatever makes. You comfortable enough to keep challenging my policy positions for at least 3 courses?" "AG," Bella replied before she could overthink it. "I can challenge your positions in any outfit, Senator, but I accept." Across town, Andrew read her message and smiled, not noticing his son Michael watching from the doorway. "Dad," Michael said, startling him, "the CEO of Midwestern Grain called. He wants to discuss the subsidy changes that, coincidentally, address concerns raised by a certain policy director who has suddenly captured your attention." Andrew set down his phone. "The revisions are sound policy, regardless of who suggested them." "I agree," Michael said, surprising his father. "In fact, I have been saying similar things for years. But you never listened to me with quite the same intensity." "Your point, Michael. Just that politics makes for complicated relationships. Be careful." After Michael left, Andrew stood by the window overlooking the Potomac, thinking about complications, politics, and the unexpected pull he felt toward a woman who had made a career out of opposing everything he stood for. Or had she? Their cafe conversations had revealed alignments he had not anticipated, values they shared despite different approaches. Tomorrow's dinner would take them further beyond the professional boundaries that had defined their relationship. He should be concerned about the political implications, about the potential headlines if they were seen together. Instead, he found himself looking forward to it with an eagerness he had not felt in years. What neither Bella nor Andrew realized was that Washington's political machinery was already taking notice of their changing dynamic. The revisions to the agricultural bill had raised eyebrows, and their coffee meetings, while discreet, had not gone unobserved. Forces were gathering, some intrigued, some concerned, some actively opposed to whatever was developing between the progressive policy director and the conservative senator. But for tonight, they were simply 2 people looking forward to dinner, pretending that politics could be left at the restaurant door. Magnolia Restaurant embodied Washington, D.C.'s particular breed of understated luxury, elegant enough for power. Brokers but subtle enough to suggest substance over flash. Andrew had reserved a private corner table, partially screened by tasteful greenery that offered the illusion of privacy while still allowing them to see the restaurant's main floor. Bella arrived precisely at 7, dressed in a simple burgundy, dress that she told herself was chosen for comfort rather than to bring out the warmth in her eyes. A strategic choice, she insisted internally, not a personal one. Andrew rose as she approached, his appreciative glance making her momentarily forget the carefully constructed political arguments she had mentally prepared. "You look beautiful," he said simply. "Thank you," she replied, settling into her chair. "I assume this restaurant was chosen for its discretion." He smiled. "Partly. Also because they source exclusively from small local farms with sustainable practices." "Oh, well played, Senator," she acknowledged with a laugh, appealing to my policy preferences through dinner selection. "I thought you might appreciate the alignment of dining choices with agricultural values," he replied. "And please, can we continue with Andrew and Bella tonight? I would like to leave our titles at the door." The first course arrived, heirloom tomato salad with locally produced burrata, and with it a comfortable conversation that deliberately avoided politics. They discovered shared tastes in music, a mutual love of historical documentaries, and surprisingly compatible views on parenting. "Victoria sounds remarkable," Andrew said. "Chess champion, straight A student, and still has time to manage a dog and an aquarium? And she is my greatest achievement," Bella admitted, though lately she has been testing my patience with her interrogations about my suspiciously improved mood after our meetings. "Ah, teenagers. Michael and Nathan were merciless when I started dating after their mother passed. Every dinner was treated like a congressional hearing." The word dating hung between them, neither acknowledging the implication that this dinner might qualify. By the main course, sustainable sea base for her, free-range chicken for him, they had fallen into the easy rhythm of people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. Bella found herself laughing more than she had in months, while Andrew revealed a dry wit that rarely appeared in his public persona. "I have a confession," he said as they shared a chocolate soufflé for dessert. "I have watched all your testimony videos, even from hearings I did not attend." Bella nearly dropped her spoon. "That is either flattering or concerning." "I told myself it was opposition research," he admitted. "But I think I was fascinated by your conviction from the beginning. I may have followed your career more closely than strictly necessary for policy analysis," she confessed in return. "Your position on water rights for agricultural communities in 2019 was impressive. High praise from my most articulate critic," he smiled. As they left the restaurant, the April evening was unexpectedly mild. "Would you like to walk for a bit?" Andrew suggested, gesturing toward the National Mall, illuminated in the distance. They strolled side by side, close but not touching, the Washington Monument rising before them like an exclamation point on the sentence of their evening. "This is surreal," Bella said finally. "A month ago, I was preparing a point-by-point rebuttal of your agricultural vision. Now we are having dinner and walking along the mall like two people who enjoy each other's company," he finished. "Is that so difficult to imagine? You know it is more complicated than that." They reached a bench facing the reflecting pool and sat down, the city's landmarks mirrored in the still water before them. "Politics makes strange bedfellows," Andrew said, then winced at his choice of words. "Sorry, poor phrasing," Bella laughed. "I think that particular idiom might be off limits for now." "Fair enough," he agreed, then grew serious. "Bella, I do not know what this is between us, but I do know it is not just political intrigue, or forbidden attraction, or whatever narrative Washington would assign to it." "What is it then?" she asked quietly. "I think it is the possibility that two people with different approaches might actually want the same things for the country," he said. "And in discovering that, they might also want similar things for themselves." The honesty of his statement broke through her remaining defenses. She had spent years viewing him as the opposition, only to discover a man whose core values, family, integrity, dedication to service, mirrored her own. "My party would have concerns," she said. "Mine would have coronaries," he replied, dryly. "Victoria would have questions." "Michael already does. Nathan is surprisingly supportive." "And Mrs. Winters?" Bella asked with a slight smile. Told me not to mess this up before she even knew what this was," he admitted. Their laughter mingled in the night air, echoing slightly across the water. "So where does this leave us?" Bella asked. In answer, Andrew reached for her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers. The simple contact sent an unexpected current through her, political considerations momentarily forgotten. "I would like to see where this goes," he said quietly. "Beyond politics, beyond our professional differences, just us." Before she could respond, a flash illuminated them briefly. Across the pool, a figure lowered what was unmistakably a camera with a long-range lens. Andrew was on his feet immediately, but the photographer had already disappeared into the darkness. "That answers the 'where does this leave us' question," Bella said, her voice tight with tension. "It leaves us as tomorrow's headline." The magic of the evening evaporated, reality intruding with the subtle click of a camera shutter. They walked back to his car in silence, the easy companionship replaced by shared anxiety. "I will have my team get ahead of this," Andrew said as they drove toward Georgetown. "Frame it as a bipartisan discussion of agricultural policy." "Because that is all it was?" Bella asked, unable to keep the hurt from her voice. He pulled the car to the side of the road, turning to face her fully. "You know that is not true, but I also know how Washington works. Once they label this as scandal or romance, everything we do professionally will be undermined." She knew he was right. Her advocacy for small farmers would be dismissed as personal favoritism toward her senator boyfriend. His policy revisions would be seen as compromises made for romance rather than sound governance. "So we pretend nothing happened," she said flatly. "No," he replied firmly. "We are strategic. We continue our professional relationship openly. Committee meetings, public policy debates. We show them we can disagree respectfully without personal animosity. Meanwhile, we get to know each other away from Washington's prying eyes. My family has a farm in Virginia. I fly there most weekends when Congress is not in session. Michael pilots the plane." "You want me to come to your farm?" The question came out more incredulous than she intended. "Next weekend," he confirmed. "Bring Victoria if you would like. Tell everyone you are taking her to visit farming communities for educational purposes. It would be truthful, just not complete." The audacity of his suggestion, and her own willingness to consider it, surprised her. "That is dangerously close to sneaking around, Senator." "Not sneaking," he corrected. "Strategic privacy, while we figure out what this is. Politicians do it all the time for much less worthy causes." As they pulled up to her building, Bella still had not given him an answer. "I need to think about this," she said, "for Victoria's sake as much as mine." "Of course," he nodded. "And do you but know this, whatever that photographer captured tonight, whatever story they spin, the truth is that I came to dinner with a brilliant policy expert and left wanting to know the remarkable woman behind the expertise." His words stayed with Bella as she climbed the stairs to her apartment, where she found Victoria still awake, ostensibly reading but clearly waiting up. "How was your work dinner?" her daughter asked, making air quotes around the obvious fiction. Bella sighed, dropping onto the couch beside her. "How much trouble am I in if I admit it was not entirely about work?" Victoria's eyes widened. "Mom, did you have an actual date with an actual human man who was not boring?" "It was not a date," Bella protested weakly. It was dinner with Senator Green. Victoria's mouth fell open. Senator Green, your political nemesis, the devastatingly handsome menace to progressive politics. I wish you would stop quoting me on that. This is the best thing that has ever happened, Victoria declared dramatically. It is like Romeo and Juliet, but with agricultural policy instead of family feuds. That is not a flattering comparison given how Romeo and Juliet ended, Bella pointed out, and it is complicated. Someone took our picture tonight. Victoria's excitement dimmed. Oh, so it is going to be a whole thing. Probably, Bella admitted, unless we are very lucky. They were not. At 5:42 the next morning, Bella's phone began buzzing. Incessantly, the political news site Capital Whispers had published the photo under the headline, "Agricultural Adversaries or Secret Allies." Senator Green and Policy Director Gomez caught hand in hand. By 6:15, both her party leadership and Andrew's office had called requesting clarification meetings. By 6:45, 3 major networks had left messages requesting comments. As Bella stared at her phone in dismay, a text from Andrew appeared. "Still interested in seeing the farm this weekend? Might be a good time to be out of DC." Despite everything, the professional complications, the media attention, the potential political fallout, Bella found herself smiling as she typed her reply. "What time does the plane leave?" "Mom, how do you pack for a weekend at your political opponent's secret farm getaway?" Victoria asked, tossing another shirt onto the growing pile on her bed. "Is this a meet the family thing? A strategic alliance thing? A romantic escape disguised as agricultural education?" "It is complicated," Bella replied, the phrase having become her mantra over the past 3 days. The photo of her and Andrew had created exactly the political firestorm they had feared. Her party leadership had been surprisingly understanding after her explanation that she was establishing diplomatic channels with the opposition, though their knowing glances suggested they did not entirely believe the professional pretense. Andrew had been less fortunate. His more conservative colleagues had expressed concern about his fraternization with the enemy. As one particularly dramatic senator had put it, the agricultural lobbies were divided, some seeing potential for beneficial compromise, others worried about weakened positions. Through it all, Andrew had maintained his composure publicly, neither confirming nor denying any personal connection, simply stating that respectful dialogue across party lines is essential to effective governance. Privately, however, their text conversations had deepened, moving beyond politics to personal histories, family stories, and increasingly direct expressions of their growing feelings. Each notification from him made her heart race in a way that both thrilled and terrified her. "It is just a weekend to get away from the media circus," Bella answered, folding a sensible sweater. "And yes, to meet his family, but in a casual setting." Victoria flopped onto her bed dramatically. There is nothing casual about flying in a private plane to a millionaire senator's farm. This is literally the plot of every romance novel. "Ever? I thought you were excited about this trip," Bella said, raising an eyebrow. "I am, but also nervous. What if his sons hate me? What if I say something politically incorrect about agricultural subsidies? What if Lara pees on something expensive?" Bella laughed, sitting beside her daughter. "First, we are not bringing Lara. Mrs. Rodriguez is watching her. Second, Nathan and Michael are adults who, according to Andrew, are curious to meet us. And third, you have been listening to my agricultural rants for years. You probably know more about subsidies than most senators." "But what if—" "Victoria," Bella interrupted gently, "this is new territory for me too. I have not connected with someone like this since your father and I separated. It is okay if we are both a little nervous. Victoria studied her mother's face. You really like him, do not you? Not just his policies, which you still mostly hate, but him. Bella felt heat rise to her cheeks. I do. It is inconvenient, and complicated and possibly career-limiting, but yes. Then I am in, Victoria declared, returning to her packing with renewed purpose. But I am bringing my chess set. If his sons challenge me, they should know I am district champion. The following morning, they arrived at a small private airfield where Michael Green waited beside a sleek six-seater plane. Tall like his father, but with darker hair and a more serious demeanor, he greeted them with professional courtesy. Ms. Gomez, Victoria, welcome. I am Michael. Dad is already at the farm preparing for your arrival, which basically means he is driving Mrs. Winters crazy by reorganizing everything she has already organized. Please call me Bella, she replied, shaking his hand. Thank you for flying us. I hear you are the family pilot, Victoria said, clearly impressed by both the man and the aircraft. One of my more useful skills, Michael smiled, helping them with their bags. Nathan says flying is just driving with an extra dimension, but it requires slightly more concentration. Once airborne, the tension in Bella's shoulders began to ease. Below them, the urban landscape of D.C. gradually gave way to the greener expanses of Virginia. Michael was a skilled pilot and, once the initial awkwardness passed, a surprisingly engaging conversationalist. So, he said, after explaining the flight controls to a fascinated Victoria, you are the famous Bella Gomez who has been challenging my father's agricultural policies and apparently his personal convictions as well. Bella tensed slightly. I would not say challenging his personal convictions. I meant it as a compliment, Michael clarified. Dad has been stuck in certain patterns of thinking for years. Your arguments have made him reconsider positions he had calcified around. Nathan and I have been trying to push him toward more sustainable policies for ages, but sometimes it takes an outside perspective. Oh, Bella said, surprised. I gathered from Andrew that you run the family business along traditional lines. Michael laughed. That is Dad's diplomatic way of saying I have been dragging the company towards sustainability while he worries about quarterly profits. Nathan is the real revolutionary, though. His agricultural tech firm is all about reducing environmental impact. And you are both okay with this visit? Bella asked hesitantly. Michael's expression grew more serious as he adjusted their course slightly. Let me be direct, since we are currently cruising at 10,000 feet, and there is nowhere for any of us to escape this conversation. My father has been essentially alone since our mother died 15 years ago. He has had occasional relationships, but nothing that made him reconsider a policy position, much less brave the Washington rumor mill. Whatever this is between you two, it is already different. Victoria, who had been pretending not to listen, abandoned the pretense. My mom has been alone too long too. She works too hard and goes to bed too early and spends too much time arguing with C-SPAN. Victoria, Bella protested. What, it is true? Her daughter shrugged. Michael laughed. I think we are going to get along just fine, Victoria. Turning serious again, he added, Dad deserves happiness. If that comes in the politically inconvenient package of his most articulate critic, so be it. The plane began its descent toward a private landing strip adjacent to rolling fields of early spring crops. As they touched down, Bella saw Andrew, waiting beside a rugged SUV, dressed not in his usual tailored suit, but in jeans and a light blue button-down shirt that matched his eyes. Even from a distance, his smile was evident. Welcome to Green Meadows, Michael announced as they taxied to a stop. Where the politics are complicated, but the air is clean, and Mrs. Winter's cooking makes everything right with the world. As they disembarked, Andrew moved forward to greet them, the professional distance of Washington replaced by genuine warmth. You made it, he said, his gaze lingering on Bella before turning to Victoria. "And you must be the chess champion I have heard so much about." "That is me," Victoria confirmed with uncharacteristic shyness. "Your plane is amazing." "Michael is the real pilot in the family," Andrew said. "I'm just an occasional passenger." Mrs. Winters appeared. From the SUV, her efficient demeanor softened by a welcoming smile. "You must be starving after that flight. I've prepared lunch on the back terrace. We can get you settled in your rooms afterward." The farm, Bella discovered, was both more and less grand than she had imagined. The main house was certainly spacious, a beautifully restored colonial with modern amenities, but it was lived in rather than showy, with comfortable furniture and family photographs lining the walls. Beyond the house stretched working fields, a modern barn complex, and in the distance orchards just beginning to blossom. Nathan, who arrived shortly after them, proved to be the most immediately welcoming of the Green family. Shorter than his father and brother, with an energetic manner and quick laugh, he immediately engaged Victoria in conversation about her interests, revealing himself to be surprisingly knowledgeable about competitive chess. "And our grandfather was a chess enthusiast," he explained, examining Victoria's travel set. "He taught all of us, but I was the only one with the patience for it. Dad and Michael are too focused on making actual moves in the real world to appreciate the strategic patience of chess." "Would you play a game with me later?" Victoria asked eagerly. "Only if you promise not to destroy me too quickly," Nathan grinned. "I hear you are district champion." As lunch progressed on the sun-dappled terrace, with views of the fields stretching toward distant mountains, Bella felt an unexpected sense of belonging. The Green family dynamic was simultaneously familiar and novel. The good-natured sibling rivalry between Michael and Nathan, Mrs. Winters' maternal management of everyone including Andrew, and Andrew himself, more relaxed here than she had ever seen him. After the meal, as Nathan and Victoria set up for their chess match and Michael took a business call, Andrew invited Bella for a walk around the property. "What do you think so far?" he asked as they strolled past a blossoming apple orchard. "It is beautiful," she admitted, "and not at all what I expected from the CEO of Green Agricultural Holdings." "What did you expect? Corporate monoculture and a mansion built on the tears of small farmers," he teased. "Something like that," she laughed. "Instead, I find sustainable practices, happy workers, and a family that seems suspiciously supportive of your political adversary visiting for the weekend." Andrew's expression grew more serious. "They want me to be happy, Bella, and for reasons I am still trying to fully understand, you make me happy." The simple declaration hung in the air between them, more intimate than any political debate, more consequential than any policy position. "Even though I still think your approach to agricultural innovation grants are fundamentally misguided?" she asked, a smile softening her words. "Even though," he confirmed, taking her hand as they walked. "Maybe especially because you challenge me. I've been surrounded by people who agree with me for most of my career. It is refreshing to be with someone who does not hesitate to tell me when I am wrong." "That could get exhausting," she pointed out. "Or it could make us both better," he countered. "Your criticism of the innovation grants made me revisit the distribution criteria. The revised version is stronger." They had reached a small rise overlooking a pond where a wooden bench offered a place to rest. Sitting side by side, the political world of Washington seemed impossibly distant. "This is surreal," Bella said softly. "A month ago I was preparing to debate you on national television. Now we are sitting on your farm, holding hands, while our children play chess. Life rarely follows the paths we anticipate," Andrew replied. "When Catherine, my wife, passed away, I never imagined finding someone who could challenge me intellectually and—" She hesitated, then continued, "and emotionally the way you do. The mention of his late wife created a momentary solemnity between them. "Tell me about her," Bella said gently. Andrew's gaze turned toward the distant mountains. She was brilliant, a botanist who helped develop more drought-resistant varieties of wheat. We met in college. She was studying plant genetics while I was focusing on agricultural economics. She was the heart of our family, the scientific genius behind the early success of green agricultural holdings. "She sounds remarkable," Bella said sincerely. "She was?" He nodded. "And she would have agreed with many of your positions on sustainable farming. She used to challenge me constantly on environmental impacts long before it was politically advantageous. And what would she think about this?" Bella gestured between them. Andrew smiled softly. "She made me promise before she died that I would not use her memory as an excuse to stop living. It took me nearly a decade to really hear that advice." The intimacy of the moment was interrupted by Victoria's distant voice calling, "Mom! I beat Nathan in 17 moves. He says it is a new record." They laughed, the emotional weight lifting. "We should head back," Bella said, "before your son's ego is completely destroyed by my daughter." As they walked hand in hand toward the house, Andrew asked, "And what about Victoria's father? How does he feel about your Washington adversary?" Bella sighed. "David and I have been divorced for 5 years, amicably co-parenting from opposite coasts. He is remarried with twin toddlers in California. We have not discussed you specifically, but he is generally supportive of me, rejoining the land of the living, as he puts it." "And is that what this is?" Andrew asked. "Rejoining life?" Bella stopped walking, turning to face him fully. "I think it might be. Despite the political complications, despite the media attention, despite everything that makes this seem impossible. When I am with you, I feel more alive than I have in years." The admission felt both terrifying and liberating, a truth she had barely acknowledged to herself, now spoken aloud. Andrew's response was not verbal. Instead, he closed the distance between them, one hand gently cupping her face as he leaned down to kiss her. The contact was brief but electric, a confirmation of everything unspoken between them. "I have been wanting to do that since the night at the café," he admitted, his forehead resting against hers. "That long?" she teased. "I've been thinking about it since you testified against my policy recommendations last fall. You are very attractive when you are completely wrong about agricultural subsidies." His laughter was interrupted by Mrs. Winters calling from the terrace. "Senator, the Secretary of Agriculture is on the phone, says it is urgent." The spell broken, they moved apart, Washington intruding even here in rural Virginia. "I should take that," Andrew said apologetically. "Go," Bella nodded. "I will rescue what remains of Nathan's chest dignity." As Andrew hurried back to the house, Bella remained for a moment, touching her lips where his had been moments before, wondering how something that felt so right could be viewed by the political world as so problematic. The weekend stretched before them, a brief respite from Washington's judgments and expectations. But Monday would come, and with it, decisions about what this relationship meant not just personally, but professionally and politically. For now, though, watching Andrew's retreating figure, Bella allowed herself to simply feel the joy of new possibilities without analyzing their implications. Politics had brought them together as opponents. Perhaps it could evolve to accommodate them as something much more complex and infinitely more rewarding. The remainder of the weekend passed in a blend of relaxation and revelation. Away from Washington's scrutiny, Bella and Andrew discovered the natural rhythm of their connection, while Victoria integrated seamlessly into the Green family dynamic, forming an unexpected alliance with Nathan over chess and with Michael over a shared interest in environmental science. Sunday evening arrived too quickly. the sunset painting the Virginia countryside in warm hues as they gathered for a final dinner on the terrace. Mrs. Winters had outdone herself with a farm-to-table feast featuring produce from the green fields and neighboring farms. "A toast," Michael proposed, raising his glass, "to new perspectives and unexpected connections. And to chess opponents who occasionally let 13-year-olds win," Victoria added with a sly glance at Nathan. "I did not let you win." "At that second game," Nathan protested, "your night maneuver was legitimately brilliant. The easy camaraderie made the impending return to Washington all the more daunting." After dinner, as Victoria helped Mrs. Winters with dessert and the brothers engaged in good-natured argument about irrigation systems, Andrew led Bella to the orchard path where they had walked the day before. "I do not want to go back," Bella admitted as they strolled beneath blossoming trees. "Here, everything between us makes sense. In D.C. In D.C., we are Senator Green and Policy Director Gomez, representatives of opposing political philosophies," Andrew finished. "But maybe that is the opportunity rather than the obstacle." "What do you mean? Politics has become so polarized that people forget we are all ultimately working towards similar goals: prosperity, sustainability, security. We just disagree on methods." He took her hand, interlacing their fingers. "What if our relationship became an example of finding common ground despite differences?" Bella laughed softly. "Are you suggesting we use our personal connection as a political statement?" "I am suggesting we stop hiding it," he clarified. "No more strategic privacy. No more pretending our dinner conversations are solely about agricultural policy. We acknowledge what this is and let the political chips fall where they may." The proposal was both terrifying and liberating. "Your party might see it as betrayal," she warned. "Some will," he acknowledged. "Others will see it as an opportunity for dialogue. The agricultural reform bill vote is coming up. We could demonstrate that passionate disagreement does not have to mean personal animosity." "And us? What does this mean for us?" Bella asked, the personal question more important than the political implications. Andrew stopped walking, turning to face her fully in the fading light. "It means I am falling in love with you, Bella Gomez, despite our differences, or perhaps because of them. Because you challenge me. Because you see the world with such clarity and passion. Because when I am with you, I remember why I entered politics in the first place." The declaration hung in the air between them, honest and vulnerable. Bella felt tears prick at her eyes, unexpected emotion welling up. "I am falling in love with you too," she admitted, "which is professionally inconvenient, politically complicated and personally terrifying, but also the most alive I have felt in years." Their kiss this time was not brief but lingering, a promise and commitment wrapped in one. When they finally parted, Bella rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "So what happens tomorrow?" she asked. "Tomorrow we fly back to D.C. together, all of us, no more separate arrivals. We do not announce anything formally, but we do not hide either. We continue our professional roles with integrity and our personal relationship with honesty." The high simplicity of his plan was appealing, though Bella knew the reality would be messier. "And the agricultural reform bill? I will continue advocating for it with the revisions we have discussed. You will continue critiquing what you see as its shortcomings. We will demonstrate that policy disagreements do not have to be personal. And when the press asks about us, we tell the truth," he said simply, "that we met as political opponents, discovered shared values beneath different approaches, and are exploring a personal connection while maintaining our professional integrity." The plan was both straightforward and revolutionary in Washington's hyper-partisan environment. As they walked back to the house, Bella felt simultaneously anxious and hopeful, a combination that seemed increasingly familiar in Andrew's presence. The following morning brought rain, the Virginia countryside shrouded in mist as they prepared to depart. Michael checked weather reports with professional diligence, declaring conditions challenging but manageable for their flight. As they said their goodbyes, Mrs. Winters pulled Bella aside. "He is different with you," the housekeeper said bluntly. "Happier, more himself. Do not let Washington ruin what you have found here." "I will try not to," Bella promised, touched by the woman's fierce protectiveness. Their return flight was bumpier than the outbound journey, the small plane bouncing through rain clouds. Victoria, unfazed, discussed chess strategies with Nathan, while Andrew reviewed briefing documents for the week ahead. Sitting beside Michael, in the cockpit's passenger seat, Bella watched the landscape transform from rural to suburban to the distinctive skyline of Washington, D.C. "Coming in hot," Michael announced as they began their descent, metaphorically as well as literally. He was not wrong. As they taxied to a stop, Bella spotted the news vans waiting beyond the airfield fence. "Looks like our arrival was anticipated," Andrew observed grimly. Bella squeezed his hand. "We knew this was coming. Remember the plan, honesty without explanation." "No hiding," he confirmed. As they disembarked, the cameras captured their descent. Senator Green assisting Bella with her bag, Victoria chatting animatedly with Nathan, Michael bringing up the rear with professional composure. They looked, Bella realized, like a family, not a political scandal. The first reporters reached them as they approached Andrew's waiting SUV. "Senator Green, can you comment on your relationship with Ms. Gomez despite your political differences?" Andrew's response was calm and measured. "Ms. Gomez and I have known each other professionally for years. We are discovering that respectful dialogue can extend beyond the Senate floor. Now, if you will excuse us, it has been a long journey." More questions followed, but they maintained their composed departure, the Green brothers effectively shielding Victoria from the more aggressive photographers. Once safely in the vehicle, Victoria burst out laughing. "That was intense. Is this what politics is always like?" "Only when senators and policy directors decide to become friends despite being on opposite sides," Nathan replied with a grin. "Usually, it is much more boring." They dropped Bella and Victoria at their Georgetown apartment, Andrew walking them to the door, despite the lingering press presence. "That was not so bad," Bella said quietly. "Round one," he replied. "Tomorrow will bring the political reactions." He was right again. By 9 the next morning, Bella had been summoned to a meeting with her party leadership, while Andrew faced a similar gathering with his caucus. The Washington machine was processing their relationship, determining how to respond to this deviation from partisan expectations. Bella's meeting was surprisingly supportive, though not without concerns. "Your personal life is your own," her party chair stated, "but your professional judgment must remain uncompromised. The agricultural reform bill vote is approaching, and your expertise is essential to our position." "My analysis of the bill's shortcomings remains unchanged," Bella assured them, "though I acknowledge the recent revisions have addressed some concerns." The meeting ended with cautious acceptance rather than outright opposition, a better outcome than Bella had feared. Andrew's experience was more challenging. Conservative colleagues expressed concern about his judgment and priorities, though none directly questioned his policy positions. The agricultural lobbies were divided, some seeing opportunity in the connection, others fearing compromise. They reconnected that evening at Bella's apartment, comparing notes over takeout Chinese food while Victoria finished homework in her room. "So, you are not fired, and I am not being primaried," Andrew summarized. "Yet." "Progress," Bella smiled, leaning against him on the couch. "The committee vote on the bill is Thursday. That is our first real test. The days that followed established their new normal, professionally maintaining their respective positions while personally refusing to hide their developing relationship. They appeared separately at the committee hearing, presented their contrasting viewpoints with their usual articulation, then were spotted dining together that evening, deep in conversation that was clearly more than political debate. Washington watched, initially scandalized, then increasingly intrigued by this new model of partisan interaction. The agricultural press, in particular, noted the substantive improvements to the bill that had emerged from their ongoing dialogue. The committee vote on Thursday was close. The bill passed with amendments that reflected both perspectives, a rare example of meaningful compromise. As the result was announced, Bella and Andrew exchanged a glance across the hearing room. Professional. Acknowledgement rather than personal connection, both maintaining their integrity while recognizing the other's contribution. Outside the hearing room, reporters swarmed, hungry for the conflict they expected between political opponents. Ms. Gomez, despite your relationship with Senator Green, you argued forcefully against key provisions of his bill today. Is not that a conflict of interest? Bella addressed the question directly. Senator Green and I have never disguised our policy differences. We respect each other enough to engage honestly on issues where we disagree, while finding common ground. Where possible, that is not conflict of interest, it is how politics should work. Another reporter pushed, Senator, has your relationship with Ms. Gomez weakened your commitment to agricultural industry priorities? Andrew's response was equally measured. My commitment is to effective policy that balances multiple priorities: economic growth, sustainability, and support for farming communities of all sizes. Ms. Gomez's perspectives have strengthened the bill by identifying blind spots, not weakened my resolve. As the press conference concluded, they left separately, maintaining the professional boundaries they had established while sending a clear message. Personal connection did not require political capitulation. That evening, as the news cycles analyzed their unusual relationship and its impact on agricultural policy, Andrew arrived at Bella's apartment with a bottle of champagne. What are we celebrating? She asked, welcoming him with a kiss. The committee vote, yes, he said, following her to the kitchen, but more importantly, surviving our first week as whatever we are. And what are we? Victoria asked, appearing from her bedroom with Lara trotting at her heels. Besides the most interesting political story in Washington. Andrew looked to Bella, letting her define what had developed between them. We are two people who discovered that opposing someone's policies does not mean opposing them as a person, Bella said carefully. No, we are exploring what happens when you look beyond political labels to the values underneath. So you are dating? Victoria translated with teenage directness. Yes, Andrew confirmed with a laugh. We are dating. Despite the complications, despite the scrutiny, despite your mother's ongoing objections to my agricultural innovation funding formulas, which remain mathematically unsound, Bella could not help adding, though her smile took any sting from the words. Later, after Victoria had retreated to her room and Lara had claimed Andrew's lap as her preferred sleeping spot, they sat together on the balcony, overlooking the Georgetown streets below. I never expected this, Bella admitted, nestled against his side. When I prepared for that committee hearing last month, I was focused on dismantling your arguments, not falling in love with the man making them. And I never imagined my most articulate critic would become the person I most want to spend time with, Andrew replied. Washington does not know what to make of us. Washington will adapt, she said confidently. We have given them something new to consider, The radical notion that political opponents can respect and even love each other without abandoning their principles. Revolutionary, he agreed, kissing her softly. Below them, a photographer captured the moment from the shadows of a nearby building, another image that would circulate through Washington's political channels. But this time, neither Bella nor Andrew would feel compelled to explain or justify. Their relationship had evolved from political scandal to something more meaningful, a testament to the possibility that differences, even fundamental ones, did not have to divide. The Agricultural Reform Bill would continue its journey through Congress, shaped by both their influences. Their careers would progress along their separate but increasingly interconnected paths. And Washington would slowly, reluctantly, begin to reconsider its assumptions about the relationship between personal connections and political convictions. As for Bella and Andrew, they had discovered something more valuable than political victory. The understanding that true dialogue requires not just speaking your truth, but truly hearing another's. That lasting change comes through connection rather than division, and that sometimes the most unexpected adversary can become your most treasured ally. Epilogue. 1 year later, Maple Street Café bustled with its usual morning crowd. In the same corner where they had first truly spoken beyond the constraints of political performance, Bella and Andrew sat across from each other, coffees growing cold as they engaged in animated conversation. Would the Sustainable Farming Initiative passed with bipartisan support? Bella said, still sounding slightly amazed. 2 years ago, I would have considered that impossible. 2 years ago, we were focused on winning arguments rather than finding solutions, Andrew replied, reaching across the table to take her hand. Things change, and they had. The Agricultural Reform Bill had eventually passed, with amendments that reflected both their perspectives, not perfect in either's view, but substantively better for their continued dialogue. More importantly, their relationship had created ripples throughout Washington's political ecosystem, challenging assumptions about partisan division and personal connection. "Senator Green, Ms. Gomez," called out a barista. "Your order for the committee meeting is ready." They were expected at the Capitol in 30 minutes, Andrew to chair a session on agricultural innovation, Bella to present research on sustainable farming communities. They would offer different perspectives, advocate for different approaches, and later that evening return to the home they now shared. Victoria entered the café, chess club trophy in hand from her morning tournament. At 14, she had grown taller, her confidence blossoming alongside her relationship with the Green family. Michael and Nathan had become the brothers she never had. Mrs. Winters, the doting grandmother figure who taught her to bake while discussing international politics with surprising insight. "Mom, Andrew, look what I won," she announced, placing the trophy on the table with pride. "Nathan is going to be so jealous. He still claims he lets me win." "Congratulations, champion," Andrew said warmly. "We need to leave for the Capitol in 10 minutes. The committee members are expecting those pastries." As they gathered their belongings in the box of pastries, a young woman approached their table hesitantly. "Excuse me," she said. I am a political science student at Georgetown. I am writing my thesis on bipartisan collaboration, and you two are my primary case study. I was wondering if I could ask you a question." Bella and Andrew exchanged amused glances. They had become accustomed to such approaches, researchers, journalists, and ordinary citizens, fascinated by their unusual relationship. "One question," Bella agreed. "We have a committee meeting to attend." "How do you do it?" the student asked earnestly. "Maintain such fundamentally different political perspectives while building a personal relationship. Most people in Washington cannot even have civil conversations across party lines." Andrew considered the question carefully. When we remember that behind political positions are human values, security, compassion, prosperity, sustainability, we can disagree on how to achieve those values while respecting that we both want them. And, Bella added, we listen to understand rather than to respond. Most political discourse is about winning points rather than finding truth. Min, the student, nodded, scribbling notes. Thank you. That is actually profound. As they left the cafe, Victoria walking ahead while texting Nathan about her chess victory, Bella leaned into Andrew's side. Remember the first time we were here? When you turned around and said, "Perhaps he is listening more than you realize." One of my better lines, he acknowledged with a smile, though I had no idea where it would lead. To a committee meeting where we will publicly disagree about agricultural innovation metrics, then go home and continue the debate over dinner. She laughed. Would you have it any other way? He asked, pausing on the cafe steps. Bella looked at him, the political opponent who had become her partner, the adversary who had become her advocate, the senator whose policy positions still occasionally drove her to frustration, even as the man himself had captured her heart. Not a single thing, she said with certainty. As they walked toward the Capitol, their different paths converging into a shared journey, Washington watched and slowly learned that opposition need not mean enmity, that collaboration required not concession, but communication, and that sometimes the most important political revolution began not with policy, but with people willing to see beyond the labels that divided them. The senator and the policy director, still divergent in approach, united in purpose, and together demonstrating that the heart of democracy lay not in uniform agreement, but in the honest, respectful engagement of differing perspectives in pursuit of common good. In a city built on power, they had discovered something more enduring, the strength that comes from connection across difference, the innovation that emerges from diverse viewpoints, and the love that grows when you truly see the person behind the position. And in that discovery lay hope, not just for them, but for the divided nation they both, in their different ways, had committed their lives to serve.